What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of the new Netflix original documentary, Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. This, of course, is directed by famous documentarian Joe Berligner. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below any video that you watch, including this one. So, Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel is basically about the Cecil Hotel in California, in Los Angeles specifically. Cecil Hotel was on Skid Row in the middle of the homeless district. It was known for, its wild parties, its drug use, its violence. There's a lot of people that were well known that lived there and so on and so forth. But it mainly focuses on this 4-part arc about what happened to this young woman named Elisa Lam, who, if you know anything about YouTube culture and YouTube videos, this is one of those very, very famous videos of when she kind of disappeared. And what happened was there was this video that was released that was an elevator video. It was camera footage of this young woman on the elevator acting very, very strange and erratic. And so therefore, what ended up happening is this big wide conspiracy started to happen between ideas of cultism and, ghosts and, ideas of supernatural entities and stuff like that. And then they blamed a singer from Mexico because he had stayed at the Cecil Hotel the year prior, and all of a sudden, because he's a death metal singer, and he's from Mexico, he's automatically a suspect. It was a very disturbing thing to watch. But in essence, what Joe Berligner is doing in this documentary is going piece by piece by piece, showing exactly what happened to, or what was suspected to happen to Elisa Lam as the story plays along. And we go from when she went to California, to when she arrived at the hotel, to when she went and disappeared, to the point where the conspiracy theory started to happen, to the eventual conclusion of what probably happened to her when she was found in that water tank. And so with that said, in this 4-part documentary, we get a lot of interesting information if you have never heard about this woman's disappearance before. But it's so well known and so well researched, and if you have any inkling or have watched a YouTube video in the last 10 years, you have watched this video. I almost can 100% guarantee it. So it's really nothing new. The only thing I learned is there was an actual, pretty much conclusive evidence of what actually happened to her, which she probably just drowned. And so the reason I was really excited to watch this documentary is Joe Berligner, who is a well-known, well-regarded documentarian. He did direct Book of Shadows, which is pretty awful, but he is most known and most notoriously known for doing a 3-part documentary over a long span of time it's basically called Paradise Lost, and there was 3 different documentaries about it. And in essence, these documentaries focused on this trial of these 3 individuals called the West Memphis 3, which also had another documentary that I think was produced or directed by Peter Jackson. But they became famous because Joe Berligner's documentaries were able to bring into light the issues and problems that these West Memphis 3 had, where they had trials that were weighted against them, really bad issues with evidence problems, and they basically got a trial that was very, very much anchored against them to put them in jail, to have somebody to convict. And in the 3rd documentary, with the whole DNA evidence and stuff like that started to come into light, they were eventually let go from prison. And it proved, documentarians and documentaries can be very important in the idea of releasing people if they're innocent and so on and so forth. And so after watching this documentary, and this is what bums me so much about this documentary in general, is the simple fact that it's 2 episodes too long. And I was talking to another YouTuber about this. I'm like, this documentary is fascinating, especially if you don't know anything about the Elisa Lam case, just on the simple fact of how insane this hotel truly was, how it was built, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of good information, trying to follow up on this case and stuff, even like I said, I didn't know. But then they kind of focus on stuff like Skid Row. They focus on the conspiratorial theories way too much. And it just feels like a story, or it feels like a documentary that has too many eggs in its own basket. It feels like a documentary that has 3 documentaries filmed at once. And with a story like Skid Row and its history and so on and so forth, you could actually make a pretty interesting, kind of compelling documentary just on that section alone. But it just, I don't know. I was starting to get a little antsy when I was watching this whole thing, because I'm like, I'm almost done with the second episode. I'm like, they could have ended it here and been a perfect documentary. You learn about Elisa Lam. You learn about the Cecil Hotel, especially in the first episode. You learn about the people who work at the Cecil Hotel. You learn about some of the YouTubers that kind of were involved with the conspiratorial theories, that kind of felt like they ruined the lives of these individuals and their conspiracy and stuff like that. And you could have focused on the eventual conclusion of how they found her, what the ideas behind how they found her, and all that good stuff. But then they just went on and on and on. And it's just a little too much of a documentary. It really is. It's something like the Mafia versus New York documentary, where you can do it like Joe Berligner does documentaries in 2 hours or whatever. The Paradise Lost documentaries were, and it's perfect timing. You could do this documentary in 2 to 3 hours and be just fine. But I don't know, when you have to focus, when you have to like expand it like The Hobbit, where you just have to add in material to kind of meet a quota, maybe just meet a quota for Netflix. Netflix, like, we need a 4-part documentary on this. You do whatever you need to do. But it just doesn't feel like Joe Berliner's focused a lot of times. And it's such a shame, because the stuff that you're watching is truly compelling. Dealing with the whole idea of this singer from Mexico and his whole story is very fascinating. But it starts to delve into like the psychosocial and the commentary of how this incident played out. And you could spend a half hour on the conspiratorial theories in the second episode and conclude it, but they spent like a whole entire episode just on those conspiratorial theories, and it goes into some weird places. It goes into some weird things. The people on screen are just like, you start wondering, like, do these people even have a life? And it's just like, I don't know, the whole idea of YouTube culture and internet culture can be a little crazy sometimes when you start thinking about it, when you get into the very dark regions of YouTube. But after that video was posted of Elisa Lam in the elevator, it just kind of wide opened the whole idea of conspiratorial theories about the whole incident itself. And maybe you could have done 3 episodes and been just fine dealing a little bit with those theories, because it is an important part of the whole incident. But when you get to the 4th episode and you get to the last 10 minutes of it, and they're finally going, this is what happened to her, we're 100% sure, and you see the other people having remorse, you could have had that at the end of the 2nd episode, or maybe the end of the 3rd episode, or maybe make every episode 30 minutes long, not an hour long. And I don't want to discount Joe Berligner for his work in this documentary. I think he has some valid points. He gets some very interesting people to talk about the stories, about living in the hotel and so on and so forth. I just think when it's on focus, it's really on focus. And I think when it works, it really does work. I just think, like my personal opinion is, either Netflix or he has so much material that they're like, okay, make it a 4-part documentary, but it wasn't focused entirely on the Cecil Hotel, which is what it should have been. It was focused on everything else, like LA Skid Row and stuff like that. So it's a shame. It's not a documentary that I entirely hated, but it's a documentary I think just goes 2 episodes too long and has some major issues on trying to keep its focus on what it's trying to do, which was tell the story of Elisa Lam. But yeah, that's it. That's my take on Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you know anything about the Elisa Lam story. Did you read about it, or did you watch the YouTube video? Are you interested in seeing this documentary after what I've told you about it? But otherwise, let me know in the comments. But if you like what you see on this video, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like the video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.